We all want meaning. We all want to know that our lives make sense. And we all want God to come into the world and make it all right. This is what Bonhoeffer called the Deus Ex Machina, the God that we wheel into existence whenever we're frightened, when we don't have an answer for something. He called it the Deus Ex Machina because in Greek plays, third-rate playwrights would use this device, literally called the Deus Ex Machina, where you would wheel a person who was strapped into this device, you'd wheel them onto the stage from above, and they would act as a god or an angel. And if you had a problem in the script, or you wanted to kill somebody off, or you wanted to move things on quickly, you kind of wheeled God in, and God did some magic kind of spell, and then they wheeled him out. And it was seen as a really bad play, because God wasn't part of the whole script. God wasn't part of the whole narrative. God was just wheeled in from the outside. And Bonhoeffer said, that's what God is for us. Not part of the narrative, just something we wheel in whenever we don't have an answer, whenever we're frightened, because we're scared. We're scared that life makes no sense whatsoever. We're scared that we're going to die and there's nothing afterwards. That everyone you know will end. That everything you've ever done will come to nothing. That you have come from nothing and will return to nothing. We are scared that the last act of every human play is blood. And so it's very natural for us to want to believe. And it's very hard for us to actually enter into radical doubt and unknowing and embrace absence. It's very hard for us. It's so hard that we need God. This is my problem with the new atheists. They talk about doubt and unknowing, but there's no trauma. That when I read it, there's no pain, there's no blood, there's no suicidal screams. In Christianity, on the cross, when Christ cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This is no intellectual doubt. This is no experience of the loss of all meaning. This is experienced at his very heart. This is existential atheism, the experience that everything is meaningless. This is Ecclesiastes put into the very heart of Christianity. Meaningless, everything is meaningless. That's radical. This is the first time in any kind of written history where God doubts God at that level. Doubt has always had a place in religions as a test, as something that is part of our human finitude, as something we have to overcome, or as a necessary evil. But here it's brought right into the heart. When you experience radical absence, you're standing in the very sight of Christ. You're standing in the very sight of God, in the very moment that you experience the loss of God. What Mother Teresa experienced when she was 36. What if actually what we have failed to see in our desire to have meaning and to believe that we are right, we fail to see that in the biblical text there is this call to experience absolute loss of identity, absolute loss of everything. What if Paul, when he talked about there being no more Jew or Greek, slave or free, male or female, really meant it? Now, of course, he didn't mean that there would be no more men and women, or Jews or Greeks or slaves or free, but these 6 categories were the religious, the biological, and the political categories of the day. The religious categories were you were Jew or Gentile, the political categories were slave or free, and the biological categories were male and female. These told you what you could do in life, who you could marry, the scope and limitations of your existence. These defined everything. And Paul comes in and says, in Christ there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for all are one made one in Christ. Now, that kind of sounds radical. But what he seems to be saying is, identifying with Christ means laying down all of your identities, Republican or Democrats, rich or poor, gay or straight, American or Iraqi, freedom fighter or terrorist, whatever it is, laying down all identities. And in that laying down, you identify directly with the one who laid down all identities. Now, if that is true, and if Paul didn't simply mean those 6 categories, but actually whatever categories we have today that fit into those, then we can say, does that mean there's neither Christian nor non-Christian? Neither atheist nor theist? Does that mean we can push this and push this and push this? That we need to create deserts in the oasis, places where we lay it all down and we encounter each other beyond our identities, beyond the various things that construct us, that tell us who we are and what we are. Now, this can help us, I think, understand what was we find in the Gospels when basically Jesus said, I will bring a sword that will cut tribe against tribe, or within tribes, father against son, mother against daughter. You see, tribes we're naturally broken up into tribes, and families, especially at that time and today, we're the primary tribe. And so I'm part of this tribe, they're part of that tribe, they're part of that tribe. And the differences between us were tribal. But then Paul seems to cut across those and say, no. The real conflict is between those who hold on to their identity so tightly that they won't let it go, and those who have an identity but hold it in such a way that they can engage with other people. So suddenly with Paul, Jew and Gentile can hang around together, but Jew and Jew can't. I remember when in my church, the time that I knew I had to leave was not the time when I realised I disagreed with my pastor. I sat down with him and I had a conversation, and I realised that I agreed with 95% of what he said, but he just believed it. And I went, oh, there's something different. If you'd seen that conversation, in one sense, you would not have seen any differences between our beliefs. But I got to a point where I was like, yeah, but I have to see the world from somewhere, and I really believe and I really love these values, but hey, I don't know. This doesn't define me. This doesn't define the scope and limitations of my existence. I mean, maybe next year I'll change my beliefs, something else will happen. And I discovered that he was saying, no, I want to hold on to this. Now, I don't know if I'm really doing him justice, to be honest, but that was just my experience at the time, and I don't think I necessarily was doing him justice. But that is what I think Paul is talking about. That suddenly you will find yourself that you have more in common with someone with very different beliefs from yourself, but who holds them very lightly, who's willing to lay them down for an hour in the church experience. Then you will have with people who believe everything you believe, but hold on to it so tightly that they won't listen to anybody else. There's a new conflict arises, not between tribes, but a new rupture within tribes. This is how I read the parable of the wedding feast, where we find out that, this wedding is going to happen and everybody's invited, all the right people, the people who should be at the wedding. And parables often begin with kind of a common sense knowledge, something that everybody can agree with. Okay, you have a wedding and the right people should be there, God's chosen people. And then we read the parable goes on and it's like they refuse to come, they make excuses. And so the second part of the parable says, well, everybody's invited then. Absolutely everybody. The doors are flung wide open. Jew, Gentile, slave, free, male, female, everybody's welcome at the table. And at the very end, we find that there is a new exclusion. Somebody is thrown out. The person who does not wear the wedding clothes, the person who retains their own clothes, the person who retains their own identity, he's the one who's chucked out onto the street, weeping and gnashing of teeth. And this is, in one sense, my vision of church. That the church is the place where we lay down all of our identities just for an hour. We pick them up when we leave again, and if you can't remember, you can't forget if you're Republican or Democrat. And it's important to fight about that stuff because real lives are at stake. We really have to try to work out how to make society better. And we have to take positions. But for an hour, you lay that at the door, symbolically, which is what we do in Icon, called suspended space. You wouldn't take your shoes off in the bar back home, but you take off your beliefs. You catch something if you take your shoes off. But you go in, I encounter you beyond your political identity. And then when we leave, we take them up again and we fight. But I don't fight as in friend and enemy anymore. We fight as friends. We fight as people who encountered each other in that desert in the oasis. That desert space where we lay it all down, just for an hour, just for the sacred liturgical hour. There is no atheist or theist, no Republican or Democrat, no Christian or non-Christian, because the problem is Christianity itself has become an identity. I think it has to then be included in the Paulinian move, which kind of can sound complicated. But what if the Christian event is the laying down of all of those identities for a moment and encountering the other?